I have been hoarding my library books for weeks now, and they're coming due soon. Do I return them? Do I keep them? Let's read a chapter and find out. I have my stack here of 6 library books that I've just been staring at thinking, wow, you are so beautiful. You look so good. I mean, book covers these days are basically art. Who needs decor when you have beautiful books lying around? This is like a good, solid arm workout right here. Although I feel like I've really gotten to know myself as a reader these past few years, I do think there are still some surprises in store for me. Maybe there is a favorite book of the year in this stack. I won't know until I give it a shot. Within my stack, I have 2 cozy mysteries and 4 romance novels, all of various different subgenres, as well as a new release that just came out in the past month. All we're doing here is reading the first chapter of each of these books in hopes that there's at least one book that I could fully read, enjoy at the start of this month. Think of this as kind of like the equivalent of a literary wine tasting where we're just, bit-bopping our way through these books, not committing to any one, just figuring out based off of the plot, the characters, writing style, atmosphere, is this something I want to invest more time in? Fingers crossed we find some winners here. Let's begin with the cozy mysteries. So A Tour to Die For is set in San Francisco, which is one of the closest cities to me. So that was really fun to hear in the first chapter. A lot of the locations that I have been to and that I know of. This book follows a serial killer tour guide who kind of gets caught up in a copycat killer case, and they're kind of like trying to pin the murder on her. So she has to sleuth her way out of being a suspect. There was a lot of info dumping in the first chapter, and it made me a little concerned about me missing something. And then I looked on Goodreads, figured out that this is actually the second book in a series, so my suspicions were correct. All that info dumping was just little reminders for folks who read the first book. Maybe this is a standalone series. I don't really know. I feel like I tend to like to read chronologically, and I do feel like the book cover should have been a little bit more clear in communicating that this is the second book. Unfortunately, this one was a DNF for me. Maybe if I come across the original book in the series, the first one, organically, I might pick it up. I did get a bit luckier with the other cozy mystery, and that is Dead and Breakfast. This is a supernatural cozy mystery that centers around the 2 characters on the front here. They are a gay married couple. We have Arthur, we have Sal. They both became vampires in separate eras, and they both come in with their own little personalities. It's very clear, very distinctive who they are just from this first chapter. I love that there seems to be no drama between them. They have really good communication styles with each other. They know their flaws and they accept them. It's very loving, very quirky, very funny. They are running a struggling bed and breakfast in this really small town in Oregon, and the mayor is actually somebody who is very anti-paranormal. So there's other creatures in this world, but it's our real world. It's not super fantastical, which I really like. And it's the mayor of this very anti-paranormal town who gets found dead on their property, and obviously people are going to be pinning it on the 2 vampires. The premise sounds funny. These characters seem hilarious. I'm in the mood for a nice light read that will give me the giggles. So I'm gonna read this one. This is a winner for sure. This book is a debut novel that focuses on a young trans man who can see ghosts. They are clairvoyant, and they have recently inherited their family's funeral business. The first thing that got my attention about this book is the cover. It is so gorgeous and exactly what I'm looking for when I'm reading a spooky romance book. Unfortunately, I got halfway through this book when I realized I actually had read this before. Not only that, I actually DNF'd that. I remember I tried it via audiobook because, again, the cover, and I guess it was pretty forgettable because it took me a few pages to realize, like, this is familiar. I'm trying to remember how far I got into the audiobook before I put it aside. It might have been maybe 15 or 20%. I think it was the writing style and the characters. It felt kind of clunky, and I didn't find myself invested in the story, in the conflict. An Ancient Witch's Guide to Modern Dating is another book that has a gorgeous book cover, and I actually had a very nice bookmark to pair with it that had a little witch and her broom on it. So I put that inside here because I'm totally reading this book this month. An Ancient Witch's Guide is a rom-com where you have a witch named Thorn who lives in the 17th century. Somehow she messes up a spell, a potion, and she lands herself in the modern era. She's on the hunt for a man, and obviously she's going to use online dating, all the tools to get what she wants. I am a huge fan of witchy rom-coms. I love the humor in this, and I found the writing to be very whimsical. And there isn't too much world building. Like I've never entered my fantasy era, especially not like high fantasy. So I kind of tend to stick to the cozy fantasy, the fantasy that feels very much like of this world, and the magic systems and the fantastical elements are very simple. I am so ready to dive back into this world, to hang out with this witch. She seems like a really fun time, like she's gonna get herself into some hijinks. So yeah, another winner here. My other romance I read is Her Night at the Museum. It's a play on words like the movie with Ben Stiller, Night at the Museum. And in this case, we have a young woman who just started a new job at a museum, and there's a new knight statue that just came in. It's a contemporary romance that kind of reminds me of like Sleeping Beauty because she ends up kissing the statue, which, I mean, what came about that for her to realize she should kiss a statue? I feel like if somebody's watching her, they'd be like, what is happening right now? It didn't happen in the first chapter, but the premise says that's what happened. So I'm like, what is going on? This book feels very kooky. The premise seems odd, but that's kind of like the appeal of it for me. Unfortunately, I don't love the writing style here. And I know this one was kind of like the biggest long shot in my whole stack of books because it's contemporary romance. There's no real like supernatural element, but I thought the idea of having a knight from a different time period show up in the real world, that felt like it could work for me. I'm always trying new things. You never know. The writing felt a little bit cheesy, and I feel like the characters were like heading into a tropey character where you have like the mean coworker woman, and then you have the boss who's a man and it doesn't see that there's like, you know, workplace discrimination happening, workplace harassment. So not my vibe. And then I went on to check out a new release here, A Book of Blood and Roses, that, my God, this cover is gorgeous. You have even like a little gold bat here on the side, and then you open it up and it is beautiful. If you like dark academia vibes, if you like, you know, like the boarding school kind of thing, this would probably work for you. Unfortunately, this one was a miss for me. The Book of Blood and Roses is a sapphic dark fantasy, and it follows a young woman who is kind of on the hunt for a vampire. It's kind of giving Buffy a little bit. She's a slayer. She had her parents murdered by vampires. She's been training with somebody to get herself to the point where she could then, you know, find and hunt down the people who killed her parents. There's eventually some like forbidden romance. She falls in love with a vampire. That's like a fun little conflict. In the first chapter, the slayer is getting told that she's going to this boarding school. She's going to, you know, infiltrate it, find this book, and then only then will this mentor of hers reveal the identity of the vampires who killed her parents. It all happens like in the first chapter. I'm like, I don't care enough for what's going on. I mean, I appreciate quick pacing. I didn't feel invested enough emotionally. I didn't know anything about this person to feel like I wanted to go on this journey with them. Unfortunately, beautiful cover, but I'm not going to be moving forward with this one. However, I did find my two winners. I love the fact that one is a romance and one is a cozy mystery. I really hope that first impressions are not deceiving and these books end up being both 5 stars for me. It took me about a week to complete this, and I think that's pretty typical for me. I was always really excited to see what these two characters were gonna get up to, and I mean, these main characters are like the main draw of this entire book. My issue here, my one critique with this book, is that every other character in the book, besides these two you see on the cover, they're kind of boring, a little bit one-dimensional, very much there just to be kind of tools used to move the plot along. And for that, I feel like I can't give it like a full 5 stars, maybe like 4.5, 4.75, I don't know. I also don't really care about star ratings in the grand scheme of my reading. It's kind of like I like the book or I didn't, or I'm like absolutely obsessed with it. And honestly, this book is probably in obsession territory. This book is exactly my kind of humor, and I feel like that'd be one reason why you wouldn't like this book and why you would DNF it, because you don't find it funny, and humor is just so subjective. But imagine you have these two characters here who, I mean, it's a whole world of other supernatural characters, which is really fun. I love the lore, I love the world building. So think what we do in the shadows except the vampires and all the creatures are harmless. They're sweet, they're kind, and they really want to interact politely and respectfully with the human occupants of this world. But it has that kind of humor, it has that kind of camp, and you have these supernatural characters just like dropped into this real world. So for that, I really appreciate how grounded this story felt. The murder mystery was really fun, and although I figured it out and was a few steps ahead of the main characters, I still found it fun to see how they'd figured out, how they'd put it together. I didn't have to waste too much time before that happened. I'm very new to the cozy mystery world, so if you are an avid, ravenous reader of cozies, maybe you'll figure it out sooner than I did. But I think there's more to this book than just the murder mystery. It took me only 3 days to finish this book. I was ravenous and I had to get to the end. I was having such a fun time hanging out with these characters and hanging out in this world. From the first chapter, the writing style of this book really captured me. And then by the 20% point, we had gotten to our main character, Thorn, being introduced to online dating. And when that happened at the end of a chapter, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. This is gonna be so much fun. And by fun, I mean a total hot mess. And it was in the best way possible. So funny. And again, a book that if you don't like this humor, it probably won't be for you. By the halfway point, me and Thorn were besties. I loved seeing how she was adapting to the modern world. We do kind of have to suspend our disbelief that she won't have her brain totally melted by learning about all this new technology. Like, I don't think anybody would be able to like wrap their heads around how things have changed between now and the 17th century. So, I mean, we just kind of had to like look the other way for the sake of the story. And it was fine. I didn't have a problem with that, but just want to give you heads up in regards to that. And I mean, there were kind of like a few plot holes here. And, you know, there's a few tropes in here that if you don't like, you probably won't like this story. However, if you are somebody who really enjoys a main character who has intelligence and she's a woman and she's characterized as, you know, being a fish out of water, but not hapless, not helpless, not, you know, this clumsy little fool a la Bella Swan, then I think you'll find this book very refreshing. And I know a lot of the Goodreads reviews that are negative for this book really harp on the fact that age is a big part of this story and specifically a big part of the life for our main character, Thorn. And I don't think just because the author is, you know, demonizing age in this book, I don't think the author is trying to say that being 39 years old is old to her. She's just highlighting what society really upholds and what society largely values. Sometimes I don't feel like people understand that there's like a difference between the societal structural issues a book is highlighting versus what they're trying to communicate about those said topics or concepts. Personally, if I had to find some critique or fault with this book, I think maybe I just like loved it too much and I wanted more time with these characters, especially since the romance is a very slow burn and I loved it. I thought it was just so sweet. And I honestly feel like this book could have been a duology or even a series, trilogy, whatever. I would have preferred a little bit more on-page time, seeing Thorn's development internally where she's dealing with all these issues regarding like age, you know, internalized sexism from her mother and like the ways in which she's learned about love from her mother and society. I would love more on the page development where I got to see that and be with her throughout that journey, as well as more time with her and her family members, her and her romantic partner. So honestly, I think this could have been a series. And I honestly, that's my biggest critique. Basically, I love these characters so much. I was completely fascinated by this world and I wanted more time. This whole experience has taught me the importance of just reading a chapter. I think it's easier for your brain to start a book that maybe you're procrastinating a little bit on because either it's highly anticipated or you're not sure and you're like, oh, I'm gonna invest so much time, I'm gonna waste it just not to like it. But I think our brain likes the idea of just like, okay, it's just a chapter, that's all I'm committing to. I think that makes things psychologically less intimidating, less overwhelming. And I've also been eyeing my Kindle Unlimited downloads and seeing that there's been some books that I think I've had downloaded for about, probably over a year. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I should explore trying a chapter on those and see which ones I will keep and which ones I'm going to return. Life is way too short to be reading books you're not fully obsessed with. So let this be an invitation for you to give this experiment a shot because you might actually have a 5-star book on your hands. Like me, I found 2 of my favorite books of the year all in one library haul. It's actually pretty amazing. So let me know, what are some of your 5-star reads you've had the opportunity to find this year, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye.